Welcome back. I've got Chris Kline on the line. Chris, how are you?
Wonderful. How about yourself today?
I am doing really good. It's sunny. It's beautiful. I'm alive. The alive part's really important part. The other if that wasn't there, I really wouldn't care what the weather is like. But no, it's all good. Really looking forward to this conversation. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself and the work you do, and we'll jump into the conversation.
Yeah, my name's Chris Kline. I'm the co-founder and CRO of BitcoinIRA. I hail from the fine state of Colorado, born and raised in Aurora, Colorado. Went to college at the University of Colorado Boulder. Was in the President's Leadership Program there. Learned a lot about leadership and the challenges of it. And then about 12, 13 years ago, I took a one-way ticket in a suitcase and landed in Los Angeles, California without a plan. Ran into my now business partners, and we jumped in with the understanding that there's a retirement crisis happening in America today, and our goal was to help more Americans retire. And then we've built a couple solutions. Probably our claim to fame is Bitcoin IRA, and we're really proud of that. And now I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, with my wife and my 12-year-old daughter. She just turned 12 yesterday.
It goes quick. Mine are all in their 20s. And
Don't
I
blink, right?
can I can do the math. My original career was public accountant, so I can do the math. I just don't like doing the math. It's like, how is this possible? Like, yeah, it goes quick, but no, quite the journey for you for sure. And I think, yeah, and that's a theme that I get from a lot of people that are on the show is so many of the thought leaders that I've had on the show have been, I was doing this and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going for it. And they just grabbed their bags and went somewhere, no plan, just had a conversation before you with someone that left a different country and came to the United States with nothing. And for those of us that have been born and raised in the States, we think about that and like, would be would we be willing to do that? It's like, would I be willing just to pick it up and go for it? And for me, the answer would be probably. I've kind of done that in the past, not to the big extremes, but I look at it like, no, you took a risk there. You gave up everything you knew and decided, let's do this. So it's not
Well, in
easy,
fact,
but it's go ahead.
in the first year, I lived in a motel. So there's like Motel 6, Motel 8. I was in Motel -4, right around the corner from the office at the intersection of the 101 and the 405 in Los Angeles. I saw some pretty dark depths of society, and that made it easy to work 7 days a week, 17-hour days, just stay in the office and hustle. And that's when actually I met my now wife. She was working in the offices where I was at. It was like a 16-story building, and I remember the first time went on a date together. I didn't have a car or anything, and she brought me home, and I had her drop me off at the fancy Marriott down the street. Waited for her to drive away, and then walked down to my really bad motel. And yeah, you have to kind of have the intestinal fortitude to risk it all. And looking back now, 13 years where we're up to 12 billion in assets under custody, 200,000 users. I wouldn't say I wouldn't go back to the simplicity of, there's a simplicity to that life too. Life gets complicated as you continue to grow.
More money, more problems is, I think, a phrase that I've heard in a rap song, or several people have said
Yep.
that. And, but on the flip side of it, it's like, I think I'll deal with those problems. Thanks. But you know what? It gives you an appreciation of things and tenacity, and also the ability to go, you know what? I survived that. So when you have a challenging situation or a huge dip in the market, or whatever, you know, something, bad report card, things that in 5 years really won't matter. It definitely helps you kind of have perspective on what's important and what's not. So
Absolutely.
I think the one beautiful thing about, well, there's many beautiful things about Bitcoin. And before I continue, this is an investment conversation on investment advice. Do your diligence, people. I'm not about to tell you what to buy or not, unless you're buying for me. Then I will tell you what to buy. But it's when it comes to investment, do your due diligence. But there's no shortage of documentation on the benefits of it, and the fact that now, for before, when cryptocurrency came on the scene and you could buy, individual digital currency and whatnot, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute. I can have this part of my retirement planning. And before you continue, I want to circle back to what you said at the beginning. I agree with you. Gone are the days of pensions and retirements and things like that that our parents and grandparents had access to. They're just not the way that they should be. So, that's why the government set up, well, hey, you can control your own retirement. Well, unfortunately, we're not the most smart when it comes to doing that. And I think that's where, the work that you do is so important because we know the upsides, well documented, of what Bitcoin has done and, anticipated what it will do over the next, 10 to 20 years, if not beyond. Especially when the last one is mined, and a lot of people are like, "What do you mean the last one's mined? You can't. No, this is it. Boom,
Yep.
done." And then all of a sudden you have, oh, we have scarcity. What happens with scarcity? Values go typically, and if you study history, that's usually what happens. So going back to it, it's like, when the whole Bitcoin thing started, and your partners and all of that were looking into this. I remember, from a kind of an outsider point of view, you know, being able to, obviously pick it up, but now that you can have it part of a retirement investment account instead of just, on its own is a big step, and also an easier access ramp for a lot of people. So I'll share a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, you kind of nailed it on the head there. Is that, it starts with participation and then it comes down to placement. 50% of Americans don't participate in any type of retirement planning today, which is a tragedy. Because it's, the government taketh, and every once in a while it give something to us, and in the 1970s it launched the first IRA plan. The traditional IRA, an individual retirement account, and then in the 1990s they added the Roth IRA component. And the reason why you do this is how you really build generational wealth. And placement could be Bitcoin. We have 85 different cryptocurrencies. It could be stocks, it could be bonds, real estate, gold, silver, oil, land, AI stocks. There's all kinds of alternatives that are available to you today, but you have to participate first. That's the first leap you have to do. And every year, you get to do $7,500 to $88,000 into your retirement plan. Which, if you do it as a traditional, it's going to lower your tax burden for the year. If you do it as a Roth, which is post tax, you don't get that benefit on the front side. But eventually, when you take the money out later in retirement, you're going to do it completely tax free. So you can turn $5,000 into $500,000 over the next 2 or 3 decades, and you're going to take that $500,000 out tax free. So the first job is to place yourself in the program. Whether and it doesn't have to be Bitcoin, but getting into a retirement plan is paramount to the first step. And then from there, you nailed it. This isn't the pension game. This isn't our grandfather's economy. My grandfather could buy GE stock or General Motors, get the dividends, live off of that and his Social Security and his pension from Hiram Walker for his whole life and live very comfortably. That's not the world we live in today. In fact, most Americans, right before COVID in 2018, they were thinking it was going to take $550,000 a year to retire comfortably, to have that put aside. That number is now a staggering 1.8 million for most of those Americans because of the rising cost of healthcare, housing, and everything in between. So you have to get into it. And then this is a modern economy requires a modern portfolio theory. So you can't just do stocks, bonds, mutual funds. While they're critical, you have to think outside the box and start looking at things. We actually have a client, because we're a regulated trust company. So while we have $12 billion in assets, not all of that's crypto. We have folks that do private equity, LLCs, real estate, venture capital. We actually have a guy in Kentucky that bought John Deere tractors. They're owned by his retirement account, and he leases them out to local farmers in Kentucky. And that's his passive way of making income for his retirement tax free. So a modern portfolio is required in this modern economy, and you got to think outside the box and get a little bit more actively involved in it. Now, does Bitcoin make sense? Well, if you zoom out the last decade, it's got a 15,000% return in the last 10 years. Compare that to gold, silver, US dollar yield, or anything, even the S&P or the Russell 200. They're all kind of in the 5 to 10%. Maybe a couple of them are 15 to 20% across that same decade. 15,000 is no joke, and we're just getting started because you hit the nail on the head. Scarcity, scarcity, scarcity. I was born in 1985, and I can tell you that I've only seen a world of abundance. We just keep printing more money, and everybody has to get a college education. Everybody's got to have a house. Everybody's got a no child left behind, no family left behind. And the rising cost of everything is because we just keep injecting more US dollars into the economy, trillions and trillions at a time. To me, having something that's scarce, that hasn't clicked for most Americans yet. That concept of there's only 21 million of these, and that day will come sooner than later. We're at 19.5 million have already been mined and are accounted for. And you and I won't live. Maybe my daughter might live barely. She'll be like 90 when the last Bitcoin gets mined in 2140. And so it's getting harder and harder to make it, and there's only so much out there. To me, getting off zero, having a little bit of Bitcoin, even having, they say if you have zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, you're in the 1% ownership bracket of Bitcoin owners in the world today. Having one Bitcoin could be life changing at some point. There's no doubt it will hit $1 million Bitcoin. I'm guessing somewhere around 2035 to 2038 is when we're going to see that happen, which isn't very far from now. That's less than a decade from now.
Yeah, and based on how quickly time is going, as we talked about before, yeah, and we're going to be in the mid 2030s, and like, go, where'd that decade go? But if we're lucky enough and wise enough to have invested in opinion, um, we see the appreciation, and the numbers are there. I mean, yeah, is there going to be ebbs and flows? Of course, there always
Yeah.
is, but I anticipate that those that are investing in it, even partial, it can make a big difference. There's many ways to do that too. Obviously, through firms like yourself. I know there's a lot of different types of online banking mechanisms where if you have sales of certain things, you can say, okay, have an allocation or percentage of your sales be converted automatically into Bitcoin.
Yep.
Well, that type of situation, again, is kind of like that. Okay, I want 5% of my paycheck, deposited in this other savings account that I don't touch. I don't keep the card on me. It's a different bank. Well, over a year, you forget that you have that account because you're just used to not seeing, and all of a sudden you look and you go, oh. But same thing would be with this as a possibility, just as an option. But again, I think it's the stat you gave about only half of Americans even have.
Here's
It's like,
another
are you?
crazy
Yeah,
stat about retirements is you mentioned how you just kind of say take 5% of my paycheck, put it here. Maybe the company is matching it, maybe they're not, but you're putting it aside. It's shocking how many people forget those and leave them behind. There are $2.3 trillion of old 401ks, 403bs, 457s, TSPs, pensions that people can roll over into a new account and have control of it and do new things with it, and they leave it behind. It's just sitting there. I always say it's like leaving your favorite hoodie at your ex-girlfriend's house. Like you just don't do that. You bring it with you. You leave your job, you bring it with you. And there's a really cool website, not mine. It's called beagle.com that you can go there and you can put in a couple of pieces of critical information, DOB, SSN, that kind of stuff, and it will go hunt down all the registered 401ks that are out there to find out, hey, did I leave $2,000 behind over here? Or did I leave a couple $100 over here? And then help you consolidate those and roll them over into a retirement plan that you have control of that you can do more with. Most 401ks and 403bs, they're accumulation vehicles where you're putting the money aside, your company's matching, but the investment options are very limited. It's like generic ABCD funds, and they're not keeping up with the modern economy. Roll that into a traditional or a Roth IRA. You could take the taxes now and do those things. And you've got all these new options. AI is a big thing. Defense stocks are going to be, given what's happening in Venezuela, Iran, and now with NATO and the US. Raytheon, Halliburton, those, as much as we don't want to see violence, if it's going to happen, every time a cruise missile launches off of a battleship, it's about $1 million, and somebody's got to buy another one of those and build another one of those, and so stockholders do really well there. Also, you've got your dedicated, and this again is not financial advice, but you got your dedicated stocks like a Home Depot, a Costco. Even during the roughest economies, those are places people still shop at. That's just the nature of the beast. So diversification is key. And having, I think the biggest myth is I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, I can't afford a Bitcoin because it's $100,000, right? Well, you don't have to buy a whole one. You could buy down to the 10th decimal point. It's very fractional. And so you can buy 0.000001 Bitcoin for a couple of dollars, and dollar cost average every month, just buy a little bit more, a little bit more. And before you know it, you might get yourself up to owning a half of a Bitcoin someday. And you just buy it without emotion, without worrying about the price. It's an accumulation strategy. So, but it's a key to true portfolio diversification, has to include things like crypto, AI, real estate, land, those types of things.
Yeah, it just makes sense to do that. And like I had a conversation on the show earlier today about diversification of income, how it's important. And I was talking about, people that work for someplace. It's like, what's your source of income? My job. Okay, what else? Not just my job. Like, okay. You're not a risk taker. You're not going out and launching your own business or trying different things, but you're staying in a job when you see this Fortune 500 company just announced 16,000 jobs being, eliminated. And we've seen it in economic times. You've seen it. I've seen it, from the 80s to the 90s to the dot com. Wow, that was crazy. It was so much fun. And then it goes kaboom. And then, the economy drops, Great Recession, COVID. There's so many ups and downs with things. I encourage people, get your revenue and your income diversified a little bit more than just one egg or all your eggs in one basket. And I know that's kind of a pun because the name of my company's Breakfast Leadership. I get it, but I'm telling you, don't put all the eggs in one basket. Have a mixture of things. Get some proteins, get some starches,
Well, if you see this,
work.
the sign behind me, that's the nest egg in Bitcoin. So
Yep.
you have to have a lot of different nest eggs in a bundle of those things, and find multiple streams of income. That doesn't mean you have to go be some influencer that's on Instagram making money off YouTube and those things. It also doesn't mean you have to start up a. I mean, some of the best stuff I've seen is people that are starting up like Amazon reseller programs. It's not a lot of work, not a lot of inventory. It's very easy with AI nowadays to set up a site and find the products that make the most sense. There's a guy that resells toilet paper that made $100,000 in passive income last year, just buying it and reselling it at different prices because drop shipping is so easy nowadays. And if you're not going to do that, then take the money you're saving and put it to work, because if it's sitting in the bank making 1% or 2%, you're not keeping up with inflation. You're losing money every year. So you have to put it to work in those places. Find some dividend stocks, put some CDs in it, and put it into some stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and or cryptocurrency, so that your money's working for you. The ultimate thing I learned from my first mentor a long time ago is, if your money's not making money while you sleep, then you shouldn't be sleeping, because like that's your job. You got to make it put it to work. And yeah, you can lose money while you sleep too. Stocks and everything goes up and down. It's volatile, but that's a nice little way to hedge yourself against. This year could be interesting. I swim in a lot of CEO circles and with a lot of mid-size to large corporations. And even though earnings reports look good, everybody's saying the Dow's at 40,000, all these things look good. Most smart entrepreneurs and owners right now are actually tightening their belts. They're preparing for what could be the worst case scenario ahead. Unemployment numbers haven't really made sense. We could get into stagflation. And what happens is it's a very fast, slippery slope. So you hear that Intel is firing 10,000 people and Facebook's getting rid of a whole division in this. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, the mid-sized business you work for in Colorado, Detroit, wherever it might be, all of a sudden you get that knock on the door on a Friday and you get your pink slip. And what do you have a plan for when that happens next? Because it's just like they say with real estate. Oh, okay, I could sell my house right now for double what I paid for it. But then what are you going to pay for the house you're going to move into? How hard is it going to be to find another job? And if you have something to lean back on, my daughter's 12 and she already is starting. So she had really bad eczema when she was a kid, like really bad itchy skin. And she started a business. It's called Elza. She owns the domain. It's actually named after her great great grandfather, Elza Kline, that fought in World War II off the beaches of Okinawa. She likes the name, and it's a Sephora for people with sensitive skin. And she's doing hypothesis. She's building business plans. She's trying to find ways that she can. And she goes, "Well, Dad, do you think I need to go to dermatology school and be a doctor?" I was like, no, you could hire one of those. If you have the right channel and marketing, you can make other people work for you and make money for them and for you at the same time. And so it's like, I wasn't born an entrepreneur. I was born lower middle class. My dad was a construction guy. My mom was a banker. And I watched the volatility of that market space, right? The booms and busts of that industry. And my mom's one goal was that I wouldn't be a fourth generation contractor. So she made sure I went to college. And I learned a lot about in college about leadership. I was the president of the fraternity council and the president of the student union at the same time. I was a member of the president's leadership class. I still have very close connections with those folks. And experiential leadership is the most powerful thing for a young mind. Is just understanding what it takes to keep yourself sane and also appease all the different personalities that are out there so that you can lead by example, but also empower. And over the years, we have about 220 employees now. And the hardest part when you really get good at leadership is you're going to be surrounded by leaders. Most early years of leadership, you're the go-to guy, right? They're like, you're the leader, you're at the front of the pack. And once you get good at this, you surround yourself with great leaders, and then you have to work within a leadership sphere to lead the rest of the folks out there. And these are the things that I try to teach her young, because none of that was, I mean, you were joking about how they don't teach any of this kind of stuff in school. I remember they taught me they spent a month at my school in Denver called Ameritown, where we learned how to run a small city. And like a week and a half of it was how to write a check. And I laugh because I haven't written a check in 10 years. Like that's obsolete now. But did they teach me about taxes? Did they teach me about investing? Did they teach me about all these other things? No, that part of what happens in today's society, whether it's on purpose or not, is we are meant to be workers, not leaders. And you have to break through that ceiling and be a leader, not just for yourself and for maybe employees, but also for your family, right? You have older family, older kids. You've raised them well, I'm sure. You have to be. They watch you, they emulate you. And if you're just sitting there saying, "Oh, my job is my only source of income," then they're going to be like, "My job is the thing that I have to be so focused on, not take risks." And you have to build that inside of their hearts and minds. A little bit of a soapbox there. Sorry, I just went off on a tangent.
No, no, but it's stories and a couple things. One, kudos to you and your wife and your daughter. My family members have suffered with that skin condition, not severely, but enough where it's annoying, and you have to be very selective on what you use. Where I've got a family member, it's like literally, it's like this kind of soap or this and
Yeah. You
nothing
change the
else.
detergent in the laundry and their skin
Oh
can go
yeah,
nuts. Yeah.
oh yeah, exactly. And or if the company that you buy the detergent makes a change in it, and even though it still says it's got all this, but all of a sudden it's like, why is this person having an outbreak or whatever the
Yep.
case may be? And I think that's in the Sephora side of things too, because I know makeup is, boy, oh boy, talk about a science experiment on your body. It's like some of those things. I know they're, and thankfully I
It's
don't
a
have to wear
blessing being a guy. I don't know. Only time I have to wear makeup is when they put me on CNBC or on Bloomberg, and then they put me, and
yeah,
right away I want to wash that stuff off because I don't want to
yeah,
break out the next day.
yeah,
Your body,
exactly.
your skin is the largest organism in your body, and
Hmm.
even if you find the right recipe, like when she was little, we found CeraVe and Cetaphil worked really well, but then your body starts building up a resistance to it, like it, and if you go on the steroids, like the steroid creams, it works really well. It works wonders. But the minute you stop using it, your body freaks out. Just like a guy that's on steroids at the gym, all of a sudden his muscles liquefy and he becomes fat from being a muscle guy. Like what's that thing? Creatine that everybody was taking back in the early 2000s. It's so I'm proud of her. Like she's deep into this and is focused on like it. And the best part is if you're gonna do anything, have a passion for it. I see a retirement crisis in America. I want to solve it. She sees a skin epidemic for little kids. Like she remembers the sleepless nights with the ice packs on her body and like all those things. She goes, I just want to help other people that are going to deal with this. I can't be alone, right? There's got to be more people dealing with this. That to me is the essence of passion leadership, and that you can do great things if you have that behind you.
Yeah, you've got the passion, you've got the address to help, or the desire to help those in need, knowing that there's so many people that are struggling with it, and you help them. And like Jim Rohn said, or Brian Tracy, or all the other leadership gurus, the more people you help, or Zig Ziglar, I know was one who said it too. The more people you help, the more you're going to have, what you want in life, because you're helping others, and that's what makes this beautiful world go round and round. So, Chris, I love this conversation. Talk to you for hours on this stuff, but why don't you share where people can find you and anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, so obviously, Bitcoin IRA, we for your audience, we made a special link that you'll probably put in the notes, bitcoinira.com/breakfast leadership. And you also, what I love about our program is not retirement's not a one size fits all strategy. And so we actually have real crypto, real people. You can call our number 877-936-7175, and you'll talk to an actual person, a VP of Retirement Solutions, walk through SEPs, Roths, traditionals, where are your funds at? What can you do with them, et cetera. That's helped thousands and thousands of folks open up retirement accounts over the years. Almost everybody in that department has been with me for a decade, so there's no rookies. These guys and gals have been doing this for years. And something really cool. So you have until April 15th to make your contribution for last year's tax season. So before you file your taxes, you can put $7,500 to $8,000, help you with your tax bill, start taking that one gift the government gives us every year and use it to your advantage. And we're going to incentivize it because we have up to $1,000 in rewards for new accounts by up until April 15th. And for your audience, make sure they mention that they saw us on the show or use the link, and you'll get a piece of Bitcoin IRA swag from our shop. So this is our vest that I like to wear. I call this the Midtown Manhattan uniform, the vest and the button down. We've got hoodies, we've got hats, we've got onesies if you got a baby on the way that say HODL with Bitcoin on them. But it's a nice way to show your pride in the fact that I've done something with my retirement and I'm diversifying myself for the future of the economy. So again, that's 877-936-7175, or use the link provided in the show notes. We're here to help folks. We really do want to help more Americans retire. That's our ultimate goal.
Thank you for that, and I highly encourage everybody to take advantage of that. So, Chris, thank you again for your time and all this amazing work you're doing. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me today, buddy.